Well, welcome everyone, first timers and second timers and many timers. It's always good to be here with you. And we've been doing this for, I don't know, 5 years now or something like that. Pam told me that, maybe longer. And uh, anyway, we all got together and in Utah in our home, and we had a meeting. And somebody said, "Well, why don't we do instead of just WeAwake, do a WeAwake, so we can all be together?" Ah. So, you get this on YouTube. So do the podcast, got the YouTube award for getting over 100,000. We got over 100,000, I didn't do it by myself at all. But, and we do this because we want to help. We want to have, to be able to contribute in the world. So if you're listening to this and you get out of it, hit the like and hit the subscribe. And in the mystery magic of the algorithms of, YouTube and the internet, that will help us to reach more people. And you will be part of our helping more people if you do that little thing. It's not bad. And I do that I listen to certain podcasts that I can trust. There's a lot of BS out there, but you have to find ones that are truthful. But I'm always glad to like them and subscribe, because I know that really helps a lot. So please do that. Now, um, yeah, today, kind of preparing for this, I was thinking about pain, and there's different kinds of pain. And there's personal pathological pain, and then there's essential pain. And even the open, enlightened heart can feel this essential pain because there is suffering in the world, right? That's one of the four truths of Buddhism. Life is suffering. And not just human suffering, but animal suffer. And I don't know. I was did a vision quest prayer fast out in the wilderness one time, and I was next to this big rock for a long time, and I was pretty sure toward the end that this rock was also alive and sentient. And I was thinking, God, we're trying to understand the mysteries of the universe, and we haven't even figured out the mystery of this rock. We've got a long way to go. So, yeah, to all sentient beings, we suffer, and our hearts feel that suffering. And in the shortest book in the Bible, not book, but verse in the Bible is Jesus wept, right? Jesus, according to the story, was the Son of God. He was incarnated. He was God in person. And God himself wept because God feels the pain. Pain is part of it. It's not necessarily pathological. It's because there is suffering, and we open our heart to it. And that pain can be transformed into compassion and love and action. So, but there's another kind of pain that I kind of wanted to talk about. And that's the pain, psychologically speaking. When we're born inside our mother, we're just, floating around in this, we just feel connected to everything, connected to our mother. We're born, we come out, and we're still very connected to our mother. And part of the process of growing into a mature human being, it's become separate from our mothers, and we start to develop a sense of identity, a sense of I. And the teenage years, they used to call it the tweens, between, and that's where teenage came from. It came from between, tween. So in that process of breaking away kind of from your identity, from being your family, you start to become an individual, and you try different things. A lot of times we do stupid things, and we kind of learn, hopefully, about things before we become an adult. And this is all well and good, and that's a necessary part of psychological development. However, it is not the end of the story. It's just really the beginning of the story, because eventually um, that individuality becomes disconnectedness or isolation from everything. We find ourselves alone in the universe. It says, what's the meaning of life? And just like, you can't connect to people. You want to be alone. This is depression is like that, which I know well. And you go out, you can be on the beach or in, beautiful desert and mountains, and you can't connect with the beauty. You just feel caught inside your own shell. Well, that I think is often a necessary part of growth, because from that we can use the metaphor of the caterpillar, dun, 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 we're happy little individuated caterpillar, and then we go into this kind of cocoon where we turn into mush, and it's this everything just starts turns into mush, but from out of that becomes a new self, the butterfly. And this this new self, the self doesn't go away, at least as far as I can understand these things. The individual um, continues a sense of self and I-ness. And Freud talked about the ego. Well, he didn't talk about the ego. That's how it was translated in the original English translations of Freud's work in the United States. And he said das Ich, which means the I, and that was transformed into ego from Latin, and it became a pejorative. Ego's a bad thing. And the real spiritual thing is to dissolve the ego and, dissolve the self, and you're there with, God or Buddha nature, however you want to describe that. But I don't think that's the truth. And I've been having a lot of conversations with Roger Walsh, and of course Heidi's a part of that. Uh, Behind the scenes, she's always there with us. And with A.H. Almaas, who is a great sage and a great teacher. And he's in his 80s. He's just right there present. And he's a very sweet, humble, kind man. But he's also traveled very, very, very far and been gifted with very deep um, understanding experience of the deeper nature of things. And so that conversations with him over the past couple of years has transformed me also. And I've come to understand that self doesn't go away. But the problem is when the self just identifies with your history, your things that make you an individual, and that isolates you from your bigger self, and that eventually starts to cause great pain and suffering. And we think we're individual, and life becomes meaningless. And so, but we break through that. So what we're trying to accomplish is not to do away with the self, because the self, the individuality, is built into the essential nature of the universe. And Hamid, or A.H. Almaas, that's his nom de plume, uh, says the universe is personal. And when we have this experience where the self expands and the boundaries go away, it's not just a freak out, oh, because I've lost myself. And no, there's a great sense of peace and awe and joy and intimacy. So there's even in um, those states, there's still something experiencing that. There's still an essential self. So, and Hamid somewhere said, or maybe I said it from reading it, it said, but the universe is personal. Okay. It doesn't go away. It's transformed, and it turns into the connected self, the integrated self, the self with porous boundaries, the self that includes the all. And that's where we're going. So we see that just the individual self, not as an enemy, but as a seed. It's a necessary developmental seed. And if we keep growing, that seed expands and grows into something much bigger and more fruitful and individual. And that's like the snowflake. There's no, it took the universe a long time to develop you. There's never been a you before. So that the essence of what you are seems to to abide. Okay. So what I would all that to say, in this meditation, we're doing Alpha Arising. That's the album, and there's two tracks, and the one we're doing is the second one. It's called Polaris, and it's 27 minutes and change. But what I would request that we do in this experience, in this meditation together, is we try to feel ourselves as the connected self, the self that is expanded, the self that includes you, me, everyone, uh, the birds, the bees, the animals, the rocks, the trees, the universe, the stars. Okay, this very personal universe, and see what that feels like, and just check that out. So let's get ready to go here and assume the position. Right, sit up straight. relax. Breathe deeply and just feel the relaxation. It's all going from your feet into the earth, the tension, the stress, and be here. And in this meditation, we're going to be uh, paying attention to the self, the little you that is not separate and isolated, but connected with the all. Yeah, that self, big self. So, without further ado, let's get going. There we go. Um, well, there we are. That was very nice. It's alpha rising because it attunes and trains the brain to the alpha brainwave state, and that was track two. So if you're anyway, that's a good one to add to your library. And kind of building on what we were talking about before, um, we can't really do this by ourselves. Okay, our um, we can't become enlightened because we practice and try so hard, and sometimes we have to do that to really. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but get to the point where you get to the point where you discipline the mind that you can turn off your thoughts, and you've done everything and done the practices and years of sitting and this, and it's like, what's wrong? Something's missing. Well, again, I think that's kind of like what we were talking about before. You need that to know that of your own efforts, you can't do anything. There has to be some higher power. There has to be, uh, Hamid calls it the intelligent grace of being. And there's a lot of ways of saying that, but it's not that practice is bad, but practice in itself is not enough. And there's a story which I really like. I've said it a few times, but maybe you guys haven't heard. It's about Sam Snead, who was the greatest golfer of his era. You know, he was a giant of golf, and before Tiger Woods and all these names came up, he was the man. And one time a reporter asked him, says, Sam, what do you count how do you account for your greatness in golf? You're so good. And he says, he says, it's just, I'm lucky. And the reporter goes, Sam, I've never been around anybody that practices more than you. I said, well, the more I practice, the luckier I get. So we see that our practice, our prayer, that our opening is just that's it. It's opening. It's making ourselves consciously available, and to to soften those boundaries that disconnect us from that, and so that we can become what we're supposed to be. And it's kind of nice to figure out, I can't do this myself. I can't become enlightened. I can't become, this, you know, uh, like I can't find God. God has to find me, or something like that. It's, and that's okay. Um, I think that makes us more grateful uh, when we do experience these greater, deeper states of being, and we find out, wow, our true nature is truly spectacular, and it is already connected to everything. And that deepest part, our true nature, does not need to be enlightened, doesn't need to be healed, doesn't need any. It's already there. You know, it's there. You know, been there. That was what we were created with. So, hmm, and I had a friend, a mentor, who was a Native American Lakota medicine man, all his black elk, and it came to me at a time when I was really broken up and really hurting. It was super providence, grace, however you want to say it, the guidance of being, spirit, however you want to say that. It came to me in a time in my life I so needed somebody to be there for me. So my job was to pick him up at the airport and drive him around the West Coast when he was on the West Coast. And so we traveled a lot together. But he talked about star beings, as if the stars were alive. Oh, and that that all beings were alive. And one Native American elder said, if it's not sacred, it's not Indian. Okay, because in their worldview, it was all sacred. All of it was sacred. All beings were sacred, and even hunting and consuming other beings was a sacred act. And you had great respect and gratitude to the buffalo, or to the corn, or to whatever it was we were consuming. And we were connected to the universe. And now sometimes we live, most of the majority of humanity lives in big cities now. And there's air pollution, there's light pollution. So we don't really see or feel the star people as much as our ancestors did, because they were, it's not there for us. You can't see it. So when I go out in the desert or go to other home in southern Utah, one of the amazing things is just being in the presence of the universe, up there, the Milky Way and all this. It's just awe-inspiring. And with that awe, with that grace that comes through the natural world and all the other peoples, the the rabbit peoples, the star people, the wolf people, the corn people, the oak tree people. Others they were always the natives always called them peoples, and it's such a good way, such a good sacred way of handling things. And if we see it like that, and we're not just cut off from nature, and we're just using our strength and intelligence to dominate and control and you know get more for ourselves, it's really kind of a lousy way of looking at things, and has led us into some really points of real crisis. And we begin to see the sacredness of all life, of all things, and the sentience of that big rock I was sitting next to. Okay, um, it begins to change the way we look at the world. And what can we do? How can we get to that point where we see the world like that? Well, we can't do it by ourselves. It's going to take higher power. It's going to take grace. But the one thing we can do, we can cultivate in ourselves a love of truth. Yeah? It's important, the love of truth. And the more that we do that, the more things will begin to reveal themselves to us. The nature of things, our true nature, God will. And there was a great American scientist and inventor by the name of George George Washington Carver, who happened to be African American. But anyway, not that that matters. He was a human being, and he was asked by a writer or a reporter, Mr. Carver, how come you've come up with so many breakthroughs and inventions? It's amazing. He says, well, when you give yourself in love to something, it begins to reveal itself to you, which is like what we're talking about. Begin to give yourself in love, the love of truth. And it's very important, because we live in a time like no other, none of our ancestors, not my grandfather, my grandmother, or even my father now has passed, has experienced what we're going through now with our technology and with the stuff that we're coming up with. And is it good or is it bad? Well, it depends. It depends on us and what we do with it and our love of truth. So um, just to see how technology is focused on, they have these exchange programs where students from one part of the world would go and live with a family from another part of the world and learn the language and the culture and see that my little thing is not the only thing. See, now there's my sister-in-law is visiting us from Germany, said that The problem is now when these young people go there, they just they talk to their parents every night. They connect, they're doing this all the time, and they play games. They get in their rooms and play games with their friends, and they never really connect with other people. And it's like, how do you do that? Maybe we have to wait until people are a little bit older to do these exchange programs where they're really interested in that. It's just one of the challenges. So yeah, we're at a point where it's very obvious that as human beings, pardon my French, we just can't get our shit together, and it's becoming more and more obvious, and very apparent in my country, the United States. And I apologize for my country. I feel it personally, but we're going to need help, and we're going to need to love the truth, and we're going to need to uh, not just buy everything that's out there. And even, I love YouTube. This is on YouTube, by the way, and that's where most people connect with this meditation. But you have to really love the truth and discern and go through. And some of it's complete bullshit. It's just not true. They lie for the sake of lying. And if I get into something and it's got music in the background, it's got AI generated voice and all these, clips and everything, I just turn it off, because I know it's not true. I need to see a person that I can learn to trust over time. So love the truth. Make yourself lucky by opening yourself. Be humble and realize it's okay that you can't do it through your own efforts, that you're going to need help. Uh, and it's there for us, each one of us. We have a soul and we have a true nature that does connect us with the living, conscious, beautiful universe. And when we aren't connected like that, it becomes very apparent because it grows to be more and more painful and more lonely, and we get lost. We feel isolated by ourselves. So here's wishing you the love of truth, and do time every day to open yourself up, prayer, whatever you want to call it, to the sacred grace that is there for each one of us. And yeah, remember to, like I said, the first time in 5 years I've said that, but hit like and subscribe if you like what's going on here and if you're moved by the meditation. So anyway, we love you a lot, and that's why we keep coming back and doing this every week. And well, see you next time, God willing. Bye.